Welcome to That's What She Said, where we'll spill the tea on women empowerment in the Great Lakes Bay region with your host, Christiana Malacara.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of That's What She Said. With me, I am she. I'm Christiana Malacara. And each and every week, I bring you an awesome woman from the Great Lakes Bay region here in Michigan to share their story, to share their perspective on life, love, sorrows, all those things, all the things. We talk about all the things. And the ways that you can tune in are at WSGW.com on Saturday mornings at 8 a.m., Sunday evenings at 6 on the airwaves, 100.5 and 790 at those same times. Anytime you feel like listening to a wonderful podcast, go to your favorite podcast app and you can find us there with That's What She Said with Christiana Malacara. And then, as always, social media. So if you see our beautiful faces, it is most likely Thursday at 1:30 and you are on Facebook or YouTube. Also on YouTube, you can find the archives of all of our past episodes as we are maybe like a year and a half into time. So we have amazing things happening with That's What She Said. We have just, kind of giving you an overview for our new listeners. We have a scholarship. It's called That's What She Said Scholarship. And that is currently open for donations at the Saginaw Community Foundation's website. So I just want to insert that plug, and I can put that link here in the comments as well. But I have to say thank you. I start out every episode by saying thank you for tuning in, but also thank you for investing in yourself. The moment that you invest in yourself, you are creating a bright future for not just you, but those who are coming after you. Because what you're doing is creating what I call is invisible ripples, right? So that unknown ripple of success. I use that word very intentionally today, success, because I wrote it down in my, I might as well just start calling it a journal. I'm journaling, guys. I'm journaling. I don't know why I don't want to admit it, but I have a notebook that I carry around. It's yellow and I throw it in the car. I have it in my bag. I have it in my purse. It's usually not too far away. And I wrote down the word success between last week and this week. It was just one of those things where I thought, am I successful? And I put all these question marks. And then later I went back and I was like, what measures success? So I wrote a few things down. One, how do we measure success? Is that how much money we make? Is that how comfortable we are in our work culture? Is that how comfortable we are in our relationship? Is that, the size of our house? Is that the luxury vehicle? And then I thought, why don't we measure success in love? Because love is just something that is so profound and eternal. It lives forever. Your job may not, your relationship may not, your car definitely won't. But what if we measured success in love? How many people do we have the opportunity to love? And how many people in our life love us back? And moving forward, I have decided that is how Christiana Malacara, myself, will measure success. In how many people I get the opportunity to just love on and bring into my circle, and then vice versa. So as you move through your week, from this That's What She Said day to the next, let's think about that and let's reflect, and feel free to comment. I really want to see how you measure love. And am I on par? I don't know. I'm just a girl behind a microphone talking to you and telling you all the things that I've learned. But I have someone who, in my eyes, is very successful, because all the time I see her, she's glowing. She's excited, and her hair always looks so great. So hopefully you are watching. You are watching us chit chat. We have Jessica Larsen with us. Hello.
Hi.
Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I feel like I'm in the presence of greatness.
Oh my goodness. You're so dramatic. Well, I appreciate you being here. We've been friends for a while, and it's one of those friendships that we stumbled upon each other, and then our energies just like connected, and we were like, okay, you're pretty cool. Let's keep being friends. So I know how I know you, but for our listeners, how might the community know you?
That is quite the introduction. Thank you so much. I would say, how does the community know me? And that would probably be because I wear a lot of different hats. I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a sister. I'm highly active in my church. A lot of people know me as the Giving Machine Lady because of the Light the World initiative that came to the Great Lakes Bay region last year. And that was a super amazing, successful, wonderful, great way to bring the community together. I'm also the marketing and communications manager for Grand Space Media, which is a local media production company. And I like to say that I keep the ship steering in the right direction. I make sure that everybody's where they need to be and make sure that everybody has what they need to have. And I like to make sure that people feel at ease in the process. And so that's kind of my role. And my boss always says something like to other people, I wish everybody could have a Jessica. And I'm not saying that to toot my own horn. I'm saying that because I like to care for people. And I wear that badge proudly. So I would say those are some pretty key things. I'm also the communications director for my church regionally, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And that's a big hat that I wear. It's a volunteer position, but I spend a lot of time doing that because it's extremely important to me.
Wow.
So
You do have a few hats.
Mhm.
I'm familiar with these hats. Carrying them is not easy. It's going to be a difficult task to manage that. And we'll dive into that. But first of all, what is a giving machine?
A giving machine is part of the Light the World initiative, which was a global initiative started in 2016. The giving machines were added in 2017. Last year, for the first time ever, they brought a giving machine to a smaller market. I mean, we all know that the Great Lakes Bay region is amazing and great, but it doesn't quite compare to the Detroit, to the Grand Rapids, to the Chicago. And so historically, these giving machines have come to larger cities, but we had this amazing opportunity and we were not going to let it pass. So we said yes. And the giving machines are a bright red vending machine, but instead of getting snacks and drinks out of it, you walk up to it, you choose what you want to give, and it goes directly to a local or a global nonprofit organization.
What are some things that you can give? Is it a pop or a water? Or what is it? What's
No
Okay.
snacks, no drinks. Well, sometimes it's water. For maybe like last year we had clean water for a village or a clean birth for a mother. You could also give a stuffed animal to a child in foster care. You could give a birthday party to a child in foster care. So these are things that, maybe something would connect to you when you saw it in the machine. We had a little girl come and she was a foster child and she saw the birthday kit and she knew what it was like not to have a birthday party. So that's what she chose to give. And it's those moments of connection that are why this does it. I mean, obviously, this initiative has raised over $30 million globally over the past 10 years, but it's not necessarily about that. It's about the stories. It's about the connection. It's about what we can do for each other because we are one big village no matter where we live.
How did it feel to work on a project that big that has the potential to affect so many people?
I would say it was in the moment. You don't even necessarily realize that because you're so tuned into the details to make sure everything runs smoothly and things are going well and the logistics and the administrative part. But then when you have those moments of connection, that's when you realize how much bigger it is. And so I think now that we see the giving machines are in 120 cities globally this year, not in the Great Lakes Bay region this year, but we have a plan. Don't worry. We still plan to light the world. We'll come back to that later, hopefully. But it's this amazing initiative, this global connection. And I think for me, the best way to describe it is if you look at like a globe, and if you've ever seen like at nighttime from space, they'll show those images and you'll see like dots of light all over.
Yeah.
Light can fill a room. Light can fill a city. Light can fill the world. And so if you start to see these dots of light showing up all over the globe, and that light represents good, positive, simple acts of service to each other, that can be very meaningful. And we can literally light the world for each other.
Wow. That takes a lot of work, right? We've established that. But it also takes a special type of person to be able to, like you said, volunteer and give at this capacity. You said you care for people. That can sometimes feel like a job, caring for people. And, it's one of those things that I give the analogy of, I can paint, right? And I enjoy painting, and it's maybe something that fills my cup. But the minute you might get like a commission piece to paint or an assignment or a mural, then it feels a little bit more like work. And maybe sometimes those things lose their glow. When you're volunteering, when you're out in the community doing these large acts, does it ever feel like work?
Absolutely not. That is one thing that is really surprising. I think I have never gone, I like to volunteer for as much as I can. I don't necessarily like to be in leadership roles for organizations because I feel like as soon as you have that label on you, automatically it's about what you're not doing. But when you show up as a willing volunteer, it's thank you for being here. We need you. And so I like to feel needed. Who doesn't, right? But also giving and in as many ways as you can and showing up when you can so that you're giving your best in any situation. That's what's meaningful, right? And I think those connections that we can make with people are so important. I've never felt like volunteering was work. You know how people will say, like, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. When I'm down, if I'm having a bad day, if I'm going through it, I look for something to do for somebody else because immediately it takes me out of my own sorrow, my own frustration, my own whatever I'm feeling, and I can focus on them. And I can say, I can help. I could do something for you. And I don't do it as a way to like hide from my problems. I do it as a way to refocus and really realize what's most important, because at the end of the day, it's only about the people that we have in our life and the love that we're able to foster with each other and the care that we can give to each other. And that's how we can change the world. They say, if you want to change the world, go do the dishes for your mom. That would change my world.
Heck yeah.
Right?
Please someone go to my house and do my dishes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So this is, I'm going to call it a tactic. This tactic to almost get out of your head of worry and stress about these things and look at the bigger picture. When did you realize that this is a tool to use to do that, to kind of just mellow yourself out and say, these people need this. I can provide this to them?
It was the way that I grew up. My parents fostered that same sense of service and gratitude. They always had us doing things for other people. And obviously as a teenager, I wasn't always most excited about that because sometimes it was physical labor. Sometimes it was babysitting for somebody that had 6 kids. And I was like, I'm never going to have kids. This is awful. But I grew up thinking every time I walked away from those situations, I feel better. Right. So I grew up in that culture of service and gratitude. My grandmothers were always service minded and they were incredible women. And so that is really what pushed me into that. And it was almost that like reconnecting with, okay, as I'm going through these things as an adult, how can I snap myself out of this? What do I remember from my childhood, from my young adult years, from my teenage years that made me feel better? Well, it was that. It was serving somebody else. It was getting out of my own way and doing something for somebody else.
Do you remember a time, or maybe you can share a moment or a story of when this truly pulled you out of a sticky situation that you had placed on yourself, or, a point of darkness or a low?
I think that there's been, I have a few in my mind that I'm thinking of, but one that kind of sticks out would be, that's deep and connecting for me is I struggled with infertility. My 2 oldest children, we both had to use fertility treatments for, and it was very stressful. And I used to get very much in my head. And there were opportunities for me, getting pregnant, having children took longer than I wanted. Also, we ended up having 2 miscarriages after our second, and that kind of, we thought we were done. Like it was kind of like, okay. And so the ways that I was able to kind of work through that was hold a friend's baby.
Wow.
Or make them a meal because they were struggling, because I knew that sitting in my house thinking about it wasn't going to do any good. Right.
So you put yourself in this act of service and provided, essentially gratitude, right? for moms who are out there listening and saying, I've been in those shoes. Maybe they are still trying. Maybe them and their spouse are still trying. What advice would you give to her to keep her uplifted and saying, I don't know the end of your journey, but there's a light here at the end?
Absolutely. We ended up having 2 children, like I said, and then we had another one much later without the help of doctors. It was truly a miracle to have Violet in our life. But I will say that if you're in the midst of it, if you're struggling, if you feel like there's no way out, just know that I truly believe that there's a plan for you, that I'm a Christian, and I truly believe that God is watching out for you. And it may not look the way you think it's going to look. My husband had an aunt who lived to be 99 years old. She was never able to have any children, but she was Aunt Jean to everybody. And so there's ways to be a mother, even if you're not given that gift on earth.
Wow. Yeah, I know a lot of women can sit with that information and ponder on it, because there's ways of service and acts of service as a mom, as an aunt. Everybody has to have a fun aunt anyway.
Oh, I'm so that aunt. They call me Judja, and I'm the best.
But when you were in those low points and you're like, hey, I went to go help my friend out. I went to go hold her baby. What would she tell you? What did that friend tell you when you went to go help them?
Usually not much did she have to say out loud. Yeah. I could see it in her eyes because for her, she was in the thick of it, of no sleep at night. She needed somebody to hold her baby so that she could just either close her eyes or put in a load of laundry or use the bathroom, right? So it was like this relief for her. But then we would have a moment at the end where she would look at me, and I can think of one in particular, and she would just say, thank you. You did so much for me. And it was that connection. That's all that mattered, right? I could be there for her. She could be there for me. And we both just kind of mutually understood that.
A lot of times for women, it's, that hustle and bustle we get stuck in. I remember, my 2 are elementary school ages. And I just remember, being busy, like the bottles need to be washed, the laundry, the go buy the dog food, the groceries, on top of, just dealing with things internally. Your body is going through this entire new introduction to itself, right? But it's really those spaces in between of silence, of the nonverbal acknowledgement to your spouse, a mother, a friend. In those spaces of silence, how can a woman take a moment to just sit with herself and pause? What do you recommend for her to do to kind of reset herself?
I think in those moments we have to take a breath, right? So breathing in, breathing out. Take that breath. It literally brings life to you. The oxygen helps your body, right? Fills your cells. It's all the good things. So take a breath. Think about that moment. And sometimes I think we have to remind ourselves that not everything has to be done right then. Not everything has to be done this way. Not everything has to be done, if we don't do this, then, what's going to happen? The world's going to fall apart, No, it's not like that. It's not the end of the world. And having a baby 13 years after my second really changed my perspective. So I think I have really let go of a lot of those things. And so the things that you think are the never going to end, like the endless nights with a newborn, right now I treasure those days. When my 3-year-old is crying in the monitor and I can hear her and she's saying, Mom, I'll just go in and I'll hold her until she's ready to go back to bed. And 14 years ago, that was not the case. I was like, oh, I'm never going to sleep again. So I think perspective always changes. So try to look at it from a different perspective, breathe, and whatever higher power you believe in, hold to that.
Did your faith help you during that time?
Oh, absolutely. My faith is an anchor.
How so?
I feel as a Christian, like I connect with Jesus Christ, right? So he's a huge part of my life. I call him my co-pilot. take the wheel, whatever he has to do to get me through things sometimes. And so holding on to that will give me a perspective unlike any other. Like there's things that matter and there's things that don't. And maybe they matter in the moment and you have to take care of those things. But there's so many things that if you just keep your eye forward instead of way back here, I heard somebody say something about like how eye doctors will have you look up every 20 minutes at something 20 feet away for 20 seconds. And the reason why they do that is because it calms your nervous system. It allows you to get a different perspective from what you're doing. And then it allows you to reset. And so if you can do that mentally and physically, it'll be so good for you, right? So for me, that's the eternal perspective that I try to hold, that life does not end here. Things do not end here. I hold on to that eternal perspective.
There's a bigger picture.
Yes.
So essentially you're saying this is what's happening now in the moment. Maybe this is what's happening this weekend, but it's not that serious. We can let go of that plan a little bit because there's an eternal.
Exactly.
Yep. Wow. Well, we're going to take a quick break. We have Jessica Larsen with us right now. And when we come back, so don't go too far. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about creating a plan and then letting it go, because that could be hard. And Jessica just explained to us that she figured it out, guys. So we're going to tap into that. So you were listening to That's What She Said with Christiana Malacara. So don't go too far because we'll be back.
That's What She Said with Christiana Malacara is back. Now let's spill the tea.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for coming back and tuning into That's What She Said with Christiana Malacara. We have a wonderful, wonderful woman here who has shared something very, very deep with us. And we know that a lot of women can resonate with this. And that's being a mom. And that has to be the toughest job ever. So, Jessica Larsen, thank you for being here. I appreciate you so much for taking the time out of your day to share a piece of you. It's a big deal. Sharing is a big deal.
It is. You're right.
A lot of what women go through, we internalize, and it doesn't always come to the surface unless we're going to explode, quite literally, right? Even with kids, getting things ready in the morning, trying to get out to school. And I'm sure you remember these days of, okay, come on, let's get going. And then all of a sudden you're ready to walk out the door, your keys and bag in the hand, car's running, and nobody has their shoes and coats on. Where's your shoes? Where's your coats? I told you 20 minutes ago. What is happening? And it's that explosion. Because we have this vision of the kids are going to do this, and then we're going to get this time, and we're going to get out the door at this time, and then we'll make it there. Right. So we have a plan. Women always, and I'm going to use the word always. We always have a plan. A big one or a small one.
Plan A, plan B, plan C, all the plans.
Exactly. And they're layered. But in the first segment, you had said sometimes the plan is to let go of the plan later. Maybe you start out with this vision, but then you realize that it's not always your vision. And there's a greater vision to the plan, and letting it go is the best thing to do. Is that hard to do?
Yes, absolutely. I'm a control freak. So letting go of the plan is very difficult for me. I'm a very routine person. When things don't go the way they should, I sometimes lose my cool, but I've learned a lot in my years. I won't count how many.
That was a big eye roll for those of you who are watching or not watching. That was a big eye roll. You're a control freak.
Yes.
Okay. So what is that, a type A person?
I don't know. Like I wouldn't necessarily call myself type A, but I do have this. I like things to be in a certain order, right? And so when they're not, or when something gets out of order, things just don't roll the same way, right? And it almost like breaks up the whole plan, like we've been talking about. But you have to learn to let go of some things, right? It's just how it is, because you can't control everything. There are so many things outside of our control. So then I think I try to hone in on the things I can control. And that brings me back. It's like, okay, these things are going wrong. The part of these things that are going wrong that I can't control, I have to let it go, because there's nothing I can do to change that. But I can bring it in and say, what can I control? I control my perspective. I control my reaction. I control my attitude towards it.
You can control your reaction.
Yes.
That's important.
Sure. Yeah.
That's an important component. Because it's that, and I said it in the first segment, it's that ripple effect that we create as women. And so if we're creating a negative reaction to something, then that's going to spread like wildfire. As it would if it was a positive reaction to something, that'll also spread. So what is something outside of kids? We've talked about kids and going through that in the first segment. Outside of being a mom, what is something that you have had to shift your plan and let it go?
I will draw an experience that we had with the giving machines last year, actually, because there was a lot that we could control, and there was a lot of things that had to be done a certain way. You know, we were following guidelines, like branding guidelines, for example, you know, things like that, where you have to stick to that. Mm-hmm. But there were some things that were outside of our control. For example, our machines arrived the day before the ribbon cutting, and the machines were meant for another city. They got mislabeled and sent to the wrong city. This was a huge problem because these are programmed ahead of time to function a certain way. The cards said a different state on them. Like, it was just this whole mess. And I'm like, I'm not sure what to do. And we had a gentleman who flew all the way here from Salt Lake City. He was here to help us get everything off the ground and rolling. He arrived late because his plane was delayed and he was in traffic and whatever. So I received that news, and I started I sat down with the committee. I started putting together a plan of how can we pivot here, because we have to move forward. There's people are going to be here tomorrow. We're ready to launch. Glad that we planned everything to be happening the day before and not the day of, because that happens in some cities. But he arrived and he said, I'm sure that you've heard, this is what's happening. This is what we're going to try to do to change this. And I said, okay. I said, that sounds good. I said, this is what we've come up with. These are the things that we can do from our end. What do you think? And he's like, wait, you're not mad? You're not going to scream my head off? I'm like, no. Like, why would I do that? What is that going to do?
You're controlling your reaction.
Literally, how is that going to change this? It's not. It will do nothing to help this situation. So he was like caught off guard, because he works in different spaces. And he said, normally I'd get a different reaction. And I said, okay. I'm like, I'll take that as a compliment, and we'll just move on. So what can I do, and how can I support you? What do you need? And he was just like, okay, let's do this, And so everybody pulled together. We did some makeshift things for the actual launch. Nobody knew any different.
Nope.
Behind the scenes.
I didn't even know.
Behind the scenes, it was fine. Or it was a mess. But on the top, it was fine. Everything appeared to be okay.
This goes back to you saying you care for people. And so within your reaction to something, you're still thinking, and you said right now, how can I help you? Even though you were the face of this project, you're like, how can I help you make this successful? Do you think that that's a skill that women learn by observing? Is this something that is instinctual? How do we develop this skill as women?
I don't think I think it's something we can absolutely develop. I think that it is observed, whether that is we see someone doing that and we want to emulate it, or we've been treated away and we want to make sure that that doesn't happen to someone else. Oh. So I think sometimes we react because we don't want someone else to feel the way we were made to feel, right? And so for me, I have been made to feel certain ways in my life. And I, in those moments, can process that and hurt and cry and have pain over it. I never want someone to feel that because of me. And so I try really hard to change the narrative and react better so that somebody else doesn't have to go through that, right? That's kind of something that I really stand by and have always stood by.
Do you think you're doing a good job at this?
That's just like when somebody asks you, what strengths do you have? And you're like, I don't know, or what we can, I would say that yes, because I try really hard. And if I ever made somebody feel bad and not good, please tell me. Please tell me. I would love to know. I don't want you stewing about something I said or didn't say or didn't do, right? So I don't like drama. I always say I work with all men. Like I don't work with any females. And so there really is very minimal trauma. I hate to say that, but we know what happens, right? Things happen when ladies get together. But then when I am in circles with incredible women like you, I have that energy. You just feed off of each other and it's wonderful, right? So I have that very unique opportunity and blessing to be able to see the difference.
In the first segment, you said, we're all just one big village. So I've had women sit behind the microphone and talk about how they build their village and how they put people in their village. And then they also remove people from their village. And correct me if I'm wrong. The way that I envision this when you said it is, if you're in my village, you're everyone. It doesn't matter the good, the bad, the ugly. You're just here and we're helping each other exist.
Yes.
So your bubble, your perspective of village is grand. Is that okay to have a village with, the energy suckers, the people that are the naysayers? Is it okay to have them in your village?
I think so, yes. Because if you can have a positive influence on them or bring them out of a bad day or help them to see something from a different perspective, then that's a win. Obviously, depending on if you're an introvert or an extrovert and how you recharge, maybe you can only take certain people in doses. And so you maybe don't spend as much time with them. But yes, you can absolutely. Like my mantra that I pull from my grandmother is there's always room for one more at the table, right? So whenever we have family dinners, like Thanksgiving, we have like 20 some people coming over for Thanksgiving. And I asked my daughter, I'm like, do you have any roommates, friends at SVSU? She's a student at SVSU. I said, do you have anybody that needs a place to go? And she's like, I'll ask. So she asked some of her roommates, and her one roommate is from Ghana. And she said, what? Are you sure? Are you sure you want me to be at your mom's house? Like, she was so surprised, right? But that's just the way I was raised. Like, there was always room for one more. There was always one more plate. Everybody would just scoot together a little more. We'd find creative places to sit. So yes, there's room for everybody. And how you take that and the doses that you can handle of certain people, that's up to you. How much energy you have to give.
That's a really good piece of advice. So the naysayers are welcome. That extra person is welcome. It just depends on how much you can handle to protect your peace, essentially. Mm-hmm. So grandma, we brought up grandma again. Is this the same grandma who is you said service-minded grandma?
Both of them, yes.
Both of them. Mm-hmm. Oh, you were very, very blessed.
Very blessed, yes.
What is something, we're talking about women empowerment. What is something that you have truly pulled from them, or it's like, yep, I see that and I'm passing it along?
My one grandmother who was the one that said there was always room for one more at the table. She passed away when I was 10 from lung cancer. And so I don't have I have a lot of core memories with her just growing up. And I remember a lot of those significant moments with her. But I have more with my other grandmother who also passed away, but she passed away more recently while I was an adult. And that grandmother was all about connection and all about serving and loving each other. So we would go over there for dinner and she would make us our favorite things and she would make sure we were comfortable. And she would also always bring up another chair. It'd stress her out a little bit more to have to expand the table, but she always made it work because she was very much about putting the place settings out and making sure everybody had the spot at the table and whatever. But she also, when I graduated from high school, her gift to me was a book of letters that she had written to me every time I visited. So every time I visited her, she would write a letter handwritten.
Wow.
And saying, this is what we did. This is how things you said. This is what, and she put little pictures in with it. And I treasure it to this day, because handwritten notes to me are very meaningful. And that's something I love doing, is sending a handwritten note to someone. And that was because of her. Learning how to express yourself verbally is one thing, but being able to express your feelings and your gratitude to someone and pointing out their strengths is another thing. And she was so good at it. And I really try hard. I've got a huge box of stationery that I collect. And anytime I feel impressed, it doesn't have to be because it's their birthday. It doesn't have to be because they did something. If somebody did something or said something, or I noticed something about them, or they were on my mind, I write them a note and I tell them.
It sounds like you're interpreting gratitude as essentially a pause of gratefulness. So I'm going to express gratitude to XYZ, even if it's yourself. But really, I'm taking a pause and reflecting on how grateful I am for this person.
Yes.
I'm going to take a step back. We are talking about being of service. But then there's also that fine line of, I'm going to serve and help this, if it's a person, place, thing. But that fine line is between a people pleaser and giving service. Have you ever seen that before? Or maybe, I'm going to volunteer to this thing because they asked me and they need my help.
Mm-hmm.
How do you see the difference between being a pleaser and a servant?
I think, again, it's mindset. It all goes back to mindset, right? So if you have that servant leader mindset where you're doing it to build others, or you're doing it to help others, that's one thing. People pleasers, I feel like, have a tendency, and I have an edge of that. Like, I always wanted to sit in the front in school and do my best and make sure, like, I would definitely say that words of affirmation are one of my love languages. But again, it's not necessarily like what I have to have, right? I love it when somebody is grateful, but I don't necessarily have to hear somebody say thank you to feel like I was appreciated or needed. But I definitely feel the need to express gratitude or to tell someone, because life is too short. Like, tomorrow your life could be completely different. My mother-in-law had a stroke a few years ago, and her life and her lifestyle and how she lives is very different now. And so that has really just kind of helped me to see things very differently. So if I see someone, I give them a hug and I hold them a little bit longer. And if I'm out in public and I see somebody and they have a dynamite outfit on, I'm going to tell them, like, you look amazing, even if I don't know them. And do you know how many people look at me like, thank you? Like, why are you talking to me? Get away.
But they think about that. They sit on that.
Yes.
And they'll probably wear that outfit again.
Exactly.
Next week.
They don't know who I am.
Yeah.
And I really don't care.
So giving compliments, giving the thank you is essentially a love language that you have, that you give. Okay. We're using this word give, service, a lot. That is a lot. Okay. What are ways that you give to yourself?
So I take time every morning for devotion. I breathe. I listen to or read from scripture. I journal. I love to write, but sometimes, your hands cramp up. So I'll talk to text into my phone. I've got a journal in my phone. So if I'm not feeling like writing, so I'll do things like that. I am very much into mind and body connection. And so it's very important for me to exercise. I exercise every day. That's something that I do for myself. And I try to put nourishing things into my body, right? 80-20 rule, let's say. But I really, truly try to focus on nutrition, exercise, and a healthy mind. Those are things that I give to myself.
What do you write about?
I have a few different journal prompts. So it's like spiritual promptings or things that I was grateful for. Like one time I didn't write anything down that wasn't something I was grateful for. Sometimes, you'll hear people say, like, say a prayer, but don't ask for anything. Just say what you're grateful for. That's hard, but it's possible. So I keep a journal of, like, the things that I'm grateful for. I also keep a journal of things that my kids say or connections that I had with my children or my husband. My husband and I have, like, a journal back and forth thing that we do. to kind of ask each other questions and
What?
talk to each other.
Okay, hold on. This is new.
Okay.
Okay. You have a journal where you write to him and he writes to you back?
It's, yeah, kind of.
Like you pass notes?
Kind of. Digitally. So it's an app that we use, and don't ask me what it's called because I don't remember. But it has prompts in it, and it's very deep sometimes. Like, you know, maybe it was like, is there anything I've ever said to you that caused you to pause, or maybe brought some sadness to you or something? And so when you hear those things, it makes you reflect and want to say, I'm so sorry, I had no idea, you know? So my husband and I are very close. We always say we make a very good team. We've been married for 23 years, and we've been through a lot together. And so thick and thin, up and down, in between, all sideways, whatever, all the things. And it's been a challenge, but we've come out stronger together. And we know that when we face things together and we communicate, things just go a lot more smoothly.
Wow. We're going to find the name of that app, and we're also are going to add that into the comments.
Okay.
So the connection between you and your husband, you said this is, when you said you're passing notes, I thought like, okay, so now we're like pen pals.
Kind of.
And this connection has grown
Mm-hmm.
and it maintains. How important is communication in marriage?
Oh my goodness.
If you had to put a percentage on it.
80, 90, like it is incredibly important. My mother and father-in-law used to joke because they have two sons, and they both got their undergrads in communications, but they were the worst communicators, you know, initially when they were growing up and stuff. So that's always been kind of this joke. But Jeff is an incredible communicator, almost too good of a communicator sometimes.
Over communicator,
but it's, you know, I'd rather over communicate than under communicate, right? So he's always he helps so much keep things on track and make sure that things are running smoothly. But that is definitely something in our relationship that is meaningful, because it has deepened our relationship. Like we are not a snorkeling relationship, we are a scuba relationship. Like we go deep and we talk about the important things, and we make sure that we have connection.
That's great. That's a great piece of advice. And yeah, we're going to find that app. So in the last minute here, I'm going to ask you a question. What is a piece of advice that you would pass along to a woman of the Great Lakes Bay region?
I would say that it's in my email stamp. So I think you always hear people will say, you have to go big or go home. But mine says, start small and show up.
Oh.
Because that's where change happens. That is where that is where connection happens.
Say it again.
Start small and show up. You don't have to go big or go home. Start small and show up.
That's really meaningful. Start small and show up. Wow. Well, thank you so much, Jessica, for being on. And I appreciate your piece of advice. Start small and show up. And thank you to all of our listeners tuning in. I appreciate you. And that is a great piece of advice from Jessica Larsen, because that's what she said.